Hello, and welcome to my presentation about my game called Catch and Release. Catch and Release will be presented by me, Maxwell Gonzalez, and Leapfrog is the company that created the game. This game is where math and the fun of fishing are combined to make a fun interactive game for kids. Catch and Release works by players who are able to play the game are going to be presented a pond, and they are going to use their reel, so their fishing line, to catch fish, quote unquote, answers to a problem that's presented at the top of their screen. The way this works is when the player goes to catch the fish, if it is the right fish, they will automatically be able to reel in the answer. And if it is the wrong fish, they will reel in the answer and the fish will be thrown back into the water and the game will say try again and mark them with a strike. These strikes are just here to help players who are trying to just guess the answers, and what this feature is here to stop that by giving, if they get the question wrong 3 times in the same round, or like 3 different questions wrong in the same round, they will be presented with an example problem, which will feature a way to help the player figure out what they're doing wrong. Overall, this concept is here just to help players not cheat with the game. Okay, the next part is the genre. So the genre is like a trivia game because it is that the player is making a selection and hoping that their selection is right. So they're being asked a question, the player is answering the question. The platform will be Leapfrog's platform. The game will be presented on Leapfrog's autonomy and Leapfrog utility programs. And then the look and feel of the game is going to be a 2.5 dimensions. So this overall for the game is like other games, Mario games, to like other Leapfrog games like Sonic the Hedgehog, stuff like that. Alrighty, now for the gameplay and mechanics of Catch and Release. The objectives of the game are divided up into a single player mode and a multiplayer mode. So the single player mode is just where players trying to catch as many fish as possible. So pretty much going through each level and finishing the levels as far as they can go. The multiplayer mode is a competition between 2 players. Multiplayer mode is only played on one device. The players take turns at a time and answer 8 questions. After the 8 questions, whoever answers the questions the fastest will win that round. And the players will play 3 rounds, and whoever gets 2 out of 3 of the rounds wins the game. So now the rules for single player mode is pretty much where the player can only catch 1 fish at a time. If they select the right fish, they will put that in their inventory box. If not, they will get a strike and a try again signal. If they get the 3 strikes, then they will have to do an example problem. And then for the rules for multiplayer mode, each player will take a turn 1 round. So 1 player will go first, the next player will go second, and then the winner of that round will be declared. The rounds are timed, and there will be no penalty getting the questions wrong and having to do the example problems, because if a player does run into that, then the player will have to go through that and would lose time. So these rules are not implemented on the multiplayer mode as on the single player mode. Game options and user interface. So the user will be able to select a grade. So this game is for kindergarten, first and second graders. And then the player will be able to select how hard the game is. So easy, medium, or hard. And then the other options that the player can do are customizable options. So like the time of day they want to present on the game, the avatars they want to create, and then they can also have the option of going to the game store and buying different reels and customizing reels and stuff like that to make the game more interactive. So the gameplay is not huge in this game, but it does help to give the players a little bit of break in between levels and stuff. So the game story will show like their character in the game, and they'll show them like walking up to the pond, or like scenes of them going up to the pond, them sitting at the pond and stuff like that. Even though the story is not that big of a player for the game, it still helps to give the players a break, and it still sets the setting for the player to get ready to play the game. And then the way the player plays the game is by selecting the right fish by answering the question. So the fish represents the answer to the math question that is presented on their screen. Alright, now the second part of gameplay and mechanics is that core mechanics of the game and the balance of the game. So to keep the game balanced, the game does have power-ups, but these power-ups can only be 3 in your possession at a time, and then only one of them can be used at a time in a level. Okay, the way to keep these balanced is that the power-ups will be guessed. So when you go to use a power-up, you select where the power-up is in your inventory, and then like a wheel will come up. And then this wheel will spin around and it will select one of the power-ups that you have or it will select a power-up that the game offers. So like it can slow time, the timer, it can make your reel speed, so the way you throw your reel out into the water faster. For different levels, there are 12 different layouts for the game, so it can make the game fresh. And then the levels do not have like an overall end boss. It's just that the player keep doing what they're doing by answering the 8 questions and then moving on to the next level, and then the questions just get harder as it goes. For cheat codes and Easter eggs, there will be no shortcuts or cheat codes, because if a player does skip a part, or if they did skip a part in this game, they would become lost, because it's basically like in school, if you do skip a part in your class, those elements do stack upon each other, and they basically lead into you need to know one thing to go into the next thing to go into the next thing. Alright, now the next part of the presentation is the story, the setting, and the characters for Catch and Release. So the story, as I said before, the main story is that it's trying to explain that the character is visiting all these different ponds and stuff. So it's fill in the space of why the scene of a level has changed, basically. So then the player doesn't feel overwhelmed that the scene has changed and they don't know why it changed. And then the overall narrative and story is that the player is trying to catch as many fish as they can as they go through these levels. The character development is that the player can create their own characters, so it can affect race, eye color, hair length, the name of their character, and the clothing that their character is wearing. This is just helpful to make the game more immersive, so that the player feels like they have more options that they can choose, and the game just isn't given to them, basically. So the characters are this way just because. Alright, and then the overall world of Catch and Release is represented by fishing ponds, and that the player can affect the time of day that they're fishing and the overall scenery. The season will be kept at summer just because it's the most, like, kind of logical. Like, that's when fishing is done the most. Now for the societal issues of Catch and Release. So Catch and Release is good because it will help children feel more comfortable with the type of math problems that they will see in school. So the game helps bring the school setting, or like the school problems, into home life, so then they get extra practice at knowing how to do the problems, and they can do it better in the classroom. It also offers friendly multiplayer setting, which adds friendly competition, and the game can be downloaded to the Leapfrog platforms I have talked about earlier in this presentation. Okay, now the negative side of the game is that this game could be overshadowed by previous games that Leapfrog has made for their platform already. Also, the game has a lack of changing on the fly. So if across the country math changes for like kindergarten, first and second grade, and it's a big dramatic change that the game needs to incorporate, it will take a year or so for that incorporation to be updated into the game. The game doesn't follow exactly to a child's math that they learn in school. It will follow like the basics of what the child will learn in that overall course in kindergarten, first to second grade, but it won't get that specific. So there could be many subjects that are in the child's or in their course that the game will not cover. And then overall, how does the game help society? The game helps society by helping to relate math concepts to a fun interactive game of fishing, which helps children learn how to become more comfortable with math problems. Alright, then for the final part of this presentation is the game assessment. So overall, who is going to support the creation of this game? And the support will come from parents who believe that this game will help their kids with math and understanding and just basically becoming more used to a math concept and not struggling with it. Teachers will believe that this game will help students become more proficient in math and they'll be able to understand subjects more, and it will help the teacher feel like they're still on track and that they are not falling behind because they have to help their students grasp the concept, because if they don't grasp it, then they will struggle with the course as it continues on. Students will support it because it is a fun interactive game where fishing and math is combined. So overall, it's going to be a fun game for the players because it has a lot of mechanisms that lets the player play how they kind of want to play, along with making the game fun and interactive for the player. So thank you for listening to this presentation and have a good day.